glasses of extreme are coming on here.
Oh,
Yes,
Whoa.
yes. Because this is an article
It's this.
written by
This.
the one, the only, Nathan C. Dallon. Now, for those who don't know, he is an immigration attorney out of Omaha, Nebraska. As Jim Cornette would say, he's an attorney so good he could get sodomy charges dropped to just tailgating, okay? He is one of the great legal big minds you should listen to. He and I have had disagreements in the past, but I do enjoy his perspective. And this is a article he gave me permission to read live on stream to you beautiful people. This is Nathan C. Dallon. Quick thoughts on Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade. Oof. This is a complex one. Earlier this week, a draft majority decision was leaked to Politico on the case of Mississippi versus Jackson Women's Health Organization. The decision is authored by Justice Samuel Alito. It's a majority opinion, and the leaker indicated that 5 justices have joined the majority opinion, namely Justices Kavanaugh, Barrett, Gorsuch, Alito, and Thomas. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, Breyer, and Kagan have all dissented. The Chief Justice, John Roberts, has not yet decided, according to the leaker. The draft majority opinion rests on one sentence. Quote, "We hold that Roe and Casey must be overruled." Chief Justice Roberts confirmed the authenticity of the draft opinion. This is unprecedented and leads to a number of clear and unclear consequences. 1. Clear legal consequences. The federal constitution no longer conveys a right for an abortion to individuals. It is now up to the individual states to determine access to abortion. Trust between clerks, justices, and court staff at the Supreme Court must be at a 150-year low. I have no insider information, but the private deliberations surrounding decisions between justices and their teams is a critical pillar in the Supreme Court's decision-making process. That trust has been shattered. The legitimacy of the court has been called into question. Justice Sonia Sotomayor asked during oral arguments on the Mississippi noted that Mississippi decided to pass a restrictive law because, quote, "we have new justices," end quote. That observation led her to ask, quote, "will this institution survive the stench that this creates in the public perception that the Constitution and its readings are just political acts? I don't see how it is possible," end quote. Number 2, unclear legal consequences. Will the overturning of Roe result in a wave of new cases asking the Supreme Court to overturn other long-held decisions? Does the majority opinion open the door to possible attacks on fundamental rights that are not mentioned anywhere in the Constitution? More particularly, are gender rights, sexual rights, and issues around the right to contract now open for reinterpretation? Think gay marriage, non-discrimination accommodation laws, protected class of gender, sexual orientation. Will the majority hold? Now the leak has happened. Will the 5 justices stick to their opinion, or will the outcry over the decision cause someone to change their vote? 3. Ethical and moral considerations. There are deeply held beliefs about life, dignity, autonomy, and choice in the U.S. The cultural arguments surrounding abortion have been deep and intense since before Roe. The different perspectives seem to be irreconcilable. The choice camp. A deeply held belief that the creation of life is an unequal experience. The consequences of sexual relationships don't equal divide between male and female. Women bear an unequal burden of the consequences of a sexual encounter. A male may have a brief sexual encounter and walk away without even knowing the consequences of his action. Women experience the same moment entirely differently and could carry with them the consequences of such an encounter for a lifetime. Pregnancy is no small thing for women and potentially a total non-issue for a man. The unfairness and burden of being pregnant, birthing a child with all of its risks, and raising a child fall on women. Should a woman have the right to deploy technology after a sexual encounter to control those consequences? The answer for those in the choice camp is yes. A woman in consultation with health professionals should be able to make decisions without interference from the state. The choice camp cannot find an observable moment for when life can be declared to have begun. The overwhelming majority of fertilized eggs never make it past the first 2 weeks. There isn't an observable, workable, and measurable way to declare life begins at conception. The life camp. Life begins at conception and rights attached to the baby long before it develops limbs, eyes, a brain, or a heart. The focus is on the life that is activated at the moment of conception. Abortion ends life and is therefore murder. The unfairness experienced by women is outweighed by the newly created life. Particular care needs to be taken to protect the new life that is, as this baby is in no position to speak out and advocate for itself. The possibility of ending a life merely because it isn't fair to the mother is murderous. The moderate camp. Moderates try to weigh the position of the pro-choice and pro-life camps. Moderates see the unequal distributions of unwanted pregnancies, but also worry about when life begins. Moderates disfavor abortion except in limited instances of rape, incest, and the life of the mother. Moderates don't believe that abortion is murder, but do believe that the state can limit abortion after 21 weeks. Moderates recognize that the moment when life begins isn't knowable, but clearly at 7 months pregnancy, life has happened. For those who are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I had a Twitter conversation about the theological consequences for abortions here. The link is given. 4. The political consequences. I don't know. All I know is this. Dems are mad, ours are glad. Those who voted for Trump to get justices to overturn Roe v. Wade have won. Will this matter in the 2022 midterms? I am doubtful. I do think blue states will get bluer and red states will get redder. I love you all. Please be kind to each other on this topic. The world needs more kindness when discussing hard things. Be charitable. Nate Dallon. So there you go, folks.
Well, with that last comment, I guess I'll tone down some of the shit I wanted to call out on there.
Wow.
There's a couple of things in there, like questioning whether like sexual identity rights or even gay marriage, like these are different cases. And I get the premises. Well, would they go and remove these because they don't like it, because they're, scary Republicans? No, that makes no sense to me. That and the basis, and if you actually read Alito, it was Alito, right, that released the goddamn, or that had the statement released. Whatever.
It was Alito's statement that was released. He didn't release.
If you go through it, it's like he's been looking at this for a long time, and he goes through every charitable argument that the left could have to keep Roe in place, and says why it's unjustified and why it needs to go. Everything that they have thought of, he's already listed of why that doesn't matter and how the case should never have made it as far as it did. And then like to say that they would just go after gay marriage because they hate the gays, like, oh come on, that's paranoia, that's stupid. And then with the female and sexual identity rights or whatever, like that's in the civil rights of what was that 1967 or whatever when they passed the Civil Rights Act. That's in there. That's in there.
64.
Yeah,
something like that. That's in there. The gender rights is in there. It's already like, you want to get rid of the Civil Rights Act then? Like, it's like that was a dumb argument there.
I'll be honest, like the one line in this that kind of like threw me off, because he's made mentions to this argument on other shows before, is the overwhelming majority of fertilized eggs never make it past the first 2 weeks. Well, we're talking about an entirely different thing there then. We're talking about the difference between, well, you see, I got this blue paint and this yellow paint. Once they combine, they become green paint. But we don't have green paint yet. Okay, once you combine the two things, now you have green paint.
But
once
Phil, you know what? Before that, it was all white paint, and we had
uterine wall. You now have green paint.
But it all started with white paint anyway, so none of it matters.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that always stood out to me in that particular. But I'll let you guys go on before I get into my last objection.
And what was he talking about in the very beginning about shattered trust? The fact that it got leaked? Is that what he thinks was the shattered trust?
Okay. It was Sonia Sotomayor. Her quote is, "Will this institution survive the stench that this creates in the public perception that the Constitution and its readings are just political acts? I don't see how that's possible." It's the idea that the legitimacy of the courts now being called into question because it's
he said it was before that. There was a line that said shattered trust specifically. It was before the Sonia Sotomayor.
Okay. Trust between clerks, justices, and court staff at the Supreme Court must be at a 150-year low. I have no insider information, but the private deliberations surrounding decisions between justices and their teams is a critical pillar in the Supreme Court's decision-making process. That trust has been shattered. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it
the
was
trust
The
between
releasing of the document.
So,
yeah, so
Yeah.
how much do you want to bet it was released on purpose? Because
Of course.
if
100%.
they're going to do this and actually overturn Roe v. Wade, if they just came out and said it and didn't like brace for impact, like what do you do before a really big decision comes down? You kind of you just kind of
Exactly.
if
turn
we're
that
not like
cost up a
paying
little bit.
attention, and then like just one morning we wake up, oh shit, they overturned Roe v. Wade. Like,
Yeah.
dude,
Yeah,
whoa.
Exactly. That's one of those things that if you don't warm the people up, like that would have been one of those.
And then when it
Well,
happens,
I guess we're putting on the riot gear today, and we're just going to take to the fucking streets. But if you bleed it out just a little bit, little by little,
Think of the
then it's not
clerk.
gonna be bad.
Think of the clerk that's reading this, right? Or being forced to write it, and they're thinking like, "This can't happen," right? So, what can I do? Well, I can leak it, and that will get, my base, energized, and maybe
could be
try to
that,
stop
could be that too. Yeah.
it. So like that's the way I'm looking at it, as far as like, that because I mean, look at if you read that opinion, then it's being overturned. Right?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
like it's
No
100%.
matter what John Roberts.
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter what
defense
Roberts says. It's
do.
going to be overturned. So,
Yeah.
so there comes a point where, like, that person doesn't want it to be overturned. So that would be my opinion.
It could
and
be
then-
either.
And then
I think
Phil-
you can make the argument either way that regardless of the intention, like, well, this could prevent it from being overturned, or this could strengthen it being overturned. I think you can make the argument both ways, though, on who leaked it and why.
yeah, I mean, but if it's already being overturned, like it's almost, I mean, if it's almost 100% going to be overturned, then why would that person jeopardize?
Right.
Why would you take the chance? You know
Yeah,
what
I
I
know.
mean?
I agree with that.
Yeah. So
Because
that
when they
would
find
be-
out who it is, their legal career is over.
oh yeah, they're done.
Yeah.
I mean,
If-
they might be able to get a gig on MSNBC, but that's about it.
Oh yeah, they're shoe in for like executive VP of CNN. Yeah.
You would co-host a show with Jen Psaki.
But now, like,
I
I've had some debates
back to
back and
that.
forth
Circle
with Nate. Really nice guy. He's one of those like Republican types who like voted for Biden in the end because Trump like didn't stand up for the moral issue, like what that kind of stuff. Which I get it, whatever. I don't agree with it because it's like Trump was a fairly moderate Republican president at best.
I don't get
if you
it.
remove his rhetoric.
Biden's not moral. Like,
was to say,
it's just
there's
like,
plenty of reasons I didn't give my vote to Trump, but his moral standing, that wasn't one of them. What the fuck
he's
does
one of
that
the
even
biggest
mean?
liars like he was one of the biggest liars in the government. Like he
Yeah.
lied about all his degrees.
now-
He lied about
Yeah, he's
going
been
to
lying in
colleges.
Washington
He's
for
been lying. I mean, he said some really awful things. Not to mention, like,
Stolen
Yeah.
speeches. and-
Yeah.
Crime bill.
yeah.
the crime bill. I was just getting to that. Yeah, the crime bill. I mean,
Now
that-
I will. I only preface that.
Yeah.
I tell you this
I'm
information
just saying, like,
because
he's moral.
I'm telling you to understand just how much it had to have hurt him to type out the people who voted for Donald Trump have won. That had to just like hurt so hard. Like, oh, ouch. Why? We've always heard like this is the most important election. No, it turns out 2016 was actually the most important election of our
See if
lifetime.
it just smooths itself out.
Get back, tell you what I'll do. If I ever get back, I promise to refabricate you, raging rivers of gold. That's what the brochure advertised. And now we're lost, we gotta take it down. Let you down slow, it's hard to survive. El Dorado. Oh, Lord. Well, let's see how that one went.
Yeah.